Good morning, and welcome to the online Sunday service of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Urbana-Champaign. Our mission is to build community, seek inspiration, promote justice, and find peace. I am Reverend Florence Kaplow, the minister of this church, coming to you from my living room with the help of many others, including radio station WRFU 104.5 FM. Thank you. I have been on summer leave for a while, and it's great to be back with you. I didn't go anywhere. I was right here in town, as so many of us chose to be, taking care of my garden. And I have to say, I have the most beautiful garden I've ever had in my life. And I really appreciate the opportunity to renew in that way in preparation for the coming year. Our theme for this fall is transformation and love. We are in a time of profound transformation, whether we like it or not, from a world pandemic to a reckoning with systemic racism, from deep questions about our democracy to deep questions about our response to environmental degradation. Old ways are falling apart, and we are truly being called to find new ways, or to rediscover ways that we have forgotten. This is not, by any stretch of the imagination, an easy time. And in hard times, what is most needed is love and courage and persistence. In fact, I don't know if true and lasting transformation is even possible without the elements of love. If we want to know more about the power of transforming love, I cannot imagine a person and life better to teach us than that of the life of the late John R. Lewis, civil rights leader and congressman from Georgia for 38 years, who passed away earlier this summer. In books and articles and documentaries about him, 4 qualities stand out: courage, a lifelong commitment to nonviolence, kindness, and above all, perseverance. As he said, "I believe that you see something that you want to get done. You cannot give up, and you cannot give in." He lived that truth, and he can inspire us to live it too. But before we get any further in our service, each Sunday we begin with a land acknowledgement of the Indigenous peoples of the land where we meet. So wherever you are, please bring to mind the Indigenous peoples of your place as I speak these words. And there will be a moment of silence after the land acknowledgement. We recognize and acknowledge that we gather today on Indigenous land, taken through deception, coercion, and violence. We acknowledge the continued displacement and oppression of Native people and honor their commitments to survival, identity, and the protection of our world. I also want to offer a special thanks to Sam Ginger, who has so beautifully accompanied our summer services this year. We are deeply grateful This will be his last service with us for a while. Thank you, Sam. Each Sunday, we, like most Unitarian Universalist congregations, light a flaming chalice to recognize our work for justice and truth held within a chalice of love and community. These are the words that I have written for this Sunday's chalice lighting. As we kindle this flame of our commitment to a better world, we honor the memory of John R. Lewis, who lived a life of persistence, courage, nonviolence, and love. May we carry on his work. And now I'd like to share some words from John Lewis. Before we went on any protest, whether it was sit-ins or the freedom rides or any march, we prepared ourselves and we were disciplined. We were committed to the way of peace, the way of nonviolence, the way of love, the way of life as the way of living. And now Let's sing, Love Will Guide Us. I have two offerings from the congregation for joys and sorrows today that were sent in earlier this week. Soon we will return to live services, and then you'll be able to actually send in joys and sorrows during the service. One is from Karen Folk. A joy, my daughter Anna, who has been seriously ill since May with bipolar anxiety and depression, is improving greatly after electroconvulsive therapy treatments. Mike and I hope to return from caring for her in Austin within a month. And a sorrow. My 96-year-old mother fell this week and has been moved to a hospice facility in Phoenix. I am grateful that my brother, his 3 sons, and my sister have been able to visit her as she makes her transition. And Karen, I can speak for so many here that we are sending you all of our love and blessings. And from Gail Cohen for Barbara Hudgings, so happy she has gotten through her surgery with flying colors and that her recovery is moving at the speed of light. We will now have a time of silence, musical accompaniment, reflection, prayer, and meditation, holding these and other joys and sorrows in our hearts. Another quote from Congressman John Lewis. It was not enough to come and listen to a great sermon or message every Sunday morning and be confined to those four walls and those four corners. You had to get out and do something. We, as Unitarian Universalists, acknowledge that we are part of the sacred web of life, the web of our connections with each other, our commitments to each other, with the wider world, and with the community around us. If there is ever a time that we know this and need to act on this, it is now. I am so excited to share with you that thanks to your vision and generosity, our new Associate Minister for Congregational Life, Reverend Sally Fritchie, is in town. She's moved from Massachusetts, and she will be beginning with us on September 1st. Stay tuned for more ways that you can connect with her over the coming months, and you should be hearing her in a service the Sunday after Labor Day. So we're really excited to be welcoming her to the staff team, and thank you for all you did to make that possible. Also, if you want a sneak preview, some of her sermons have been in the e-news some weeks this summer. Next Sunday, I will be with you again, and we will be welcoming 4 new members to UUCUC. And also, sadly, we will be saying goodbye and offering blessings to our wonderful Director of Congregational Engagement, Sherry Bullen, who has been with us for, I think it's a little more than 4 years, and has brought so many gifts to this congregation and to her work with us, especially her work with membership. She is going off to manifest a wonderful dream of becoming a chaplain, a hospice chaplain, and some of her training begins literally the very next day after her last day with us. So we will wish her well, and she'll be quite engaged with that, but she has promised me that she will be back to be part of the congregation in other ways. And there will be a way also that you can send your own well-wishings to her in a special online way. So look in next week's e-news for how to do that. And that reminds me that if you are listening today and you don't get our e-news, but you'd like to, there is a link to sign up right on the live stream page. You can just scroll down to below the video. You can also go to our homepage and you'll see a place where you can sign up. Each month we share half of our Sunday offering with organizations in alignment with our values. And this month our shared offering is to Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, a critically important national organization dedicated to stemming the tide of gun violence and suicide. This was a passion of John Lewis, so please give generously today in his memory. Before we go to our offering and to information about how you can give online, Michelle Grove and Kathleen Holden from the United Dream Team want to share an announcement and heartfelt request with you. Members and friends, after the service, you will find an email from the Dream Team in your inbox. Please open it and follow the directions to the survey. Thank you so much.
Good morning. My name is Michelle Grove, and I'm the Interim Director of Religious Education for this congregation. Today's worship experience centered on the life and model and call to action of Congressman John R. Lewis is a great one to reflect in these challenging times. Our congregation is one that takes that call seriously. For the past 2 years, I've had the privilege of working with the Dream Team, which is a group that is leading the congregation in reestablishing and recommitting to its mission and setting visions for the future, and then also developing action steps so that we have a plan for living out those visions. We have called upon the congregation for input and reflection, and today we would like to do that again. So I'd like to introduce to you Kathleen Holden, who is an active member of the Dream Team. Kathleen, thank you so much for being here and telling us about the next steps.
Thank you, Michelle. The first thing I'd like to say is thank you to all of you in the congregation. You gave us your feedback through written surveys and meetings. You worked hard with us. And without that, we could not have developed the mission and vision statements that you approved. So thank you. Thank you very much. And now we are asking you to help again. At 11:15 today, you will be receiving a survey. Based on the vision statements that we all developed together, we have developed 13 broad goals. We would like you to look at those. We would like you to identify, in your opinion, where the largest gaps reside between our visions and reality. We would like you to pick 5 goals. Given that feedback, we will develop a strategic plan with specific action steps. Because as everyone is saying today, it is not enough to have good ideas. We need to have good actions consistent with our UU values. So we appreciate you. Thank you. Looking forward to hearing your feedback again.
Thank you to all of you for all you give, and blessings on your day.
Another quote from John Lewis: My parents told me in the very beginning as a young child, when I raised the question about segregation and racial discrimination, they told me not to get in the way, not to get in trouble, not to make any noise. I want to see young people in America feel the spirit of the 1960s and find a way to get in the way. Rosa Parks inspired me to find a way to get in the way, to get in trouble, good trouble, necessary trouble. When Congressman John Lewis died earlier this summer at the age of 80 of pancreatic cancer, I, like all of America, witnessed the week of extraordinary events honoring him and his contributions to our country. In that week, there were private services in Troy, Alabama, where he was born. He lay in state at the rotunda of the US Capitol. His body in its casket crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge one last time in a carriage drawn by two black horses that stopped at the place where his blood was spilled for civil rights. And finally, he was honored at Ebenezer Baptist Church in the heart of the district in Atlanta, Georgia, which he served with such dedication for nearly 40 years. And in the church where his dear friend and mentor, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., served as the pastor. I watched nearly all of his 4-hour funeral there. 3 former presidents and the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, were there and spoke words of praise. And Jimmy Carter, now in his 90s, also sent written words of praise. Never, perhaps, since the death of Dr. King himself or President Kennedy, who was a personal friend of John Lewis, have we honored a fallen statesman so powerfully. Who was this man? I was ashamed to realize just how little I knew about him and his extraordinary life. From his childhood preaching to the chickens on his family farm in Troy, Alabama, to his time as a civil rights leader by the side of Dr. King, and then his service to our country through thick and thin for 38 years in the US Congress, traveling the country on behalf of progressive candidates, African-American candidates at every level, always kind, always ready to help, committed from the age of 15 to his death to the principles of nonviolent action and to the values that underlay everything he did. I hadn't known that he was a freedom fighter, beaten many times by angry white moms as the freedom riders worked to desegregate interstate buses. I hadn't known he had reached out to Dr. King, writing him a letter as a very young man, 17-year-old from the country, and then was taken under Dr. King's wing, called the boy from Troy for the rest of Dr. King's life. I hadn't known he was in the front of the march at the Edmund Pettus Bridge on Bloody Sunday by Dr. King's side and was attacked by the police, leaving his blood on the bridge, carrying the scars of a fractured skull for the rest of his life, and coming back from the hospital 2 weeks later to successfully cross the bridge, walking to Montgomery, 54 miles away. And on that crossing, he was joined by many, many UU clergy, including the minister of this congregation. I hadn't known he was a founder and leader of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, I hadn't known he was one of the primary organizers of the Mississippi Freedom Summer in 1964, the year I was born, and the March on Washington in 1963. I hadn't known he was arrested more than 40 times during the 1950s and 60s, and 5 more times after he was in Congress, including organizing a 24-hour sit-in in the Capitol at 76 years old to force a vote on gun control after the Pulse nightclub massacres. Or how he was steadfast, always steadfast in his support of women and of the rights of immigrants, steadfast in his commitments to peace and justice. I didn't really know until after he died that we had a true living American hero who never, ever gave up, not till death took him too soon. I have no doubt that he would have served this country until he was 100 years old, had he been able to. Since the day of his funeral, I've watched the recent documentary called Good Trouble on YouTube. You can watch it too, please do. And have read many of his words and a lot more about him. The more I read, the more I feel that we have so much to learn from him. Not just about racial justice, but about what it means in every way to be a fine, brave, good, and committed human being. For instance, at his Atlanta funeral, one of the most important speakers, right up there with former presidents, was a longtime ordinary member of his congressional staff, a woman. The way he was with his staff, as she described it, his care for them, his dedication to their well-being, the way he knew them personally, his playfulness, inspired me to be a better leader for our staff team here. So these qualities, perseverance, courage, kindness, nonviolence, he lived them. He wanted to be a preacher when he was young, but instead his life became a sermon, a lived ministry. One of the things he said was that every day in Congress is a fight. I just keep believing we can make things better. The next time you are feeling cynical or despairing, please think of John Lewis. Imagine the profound losses and disappointments he experienced over his lifetime. The assassination of friends King, Dr. King, Bobby Kennedy, John F. Kennedy. These last 38 years in Congress, especially the last few years, and yet he woke up every morning determined to make things better. One colleague said of him, he challenges the conscience of Congress every day he is here. In the documentary I watched, Stacey Abrams and others said of him and to him, "It is because of you, John Lewis, that we are here." Many of the freshman representatives from the last election. He said near the end of his life, after everything, "I still believe we shall overcome." He said, as creatively as possible, strive to be as loving as possible in every situation. If John Lewis believed this, if John Lewis could keep the light of his fierce love burning for 80 years through everything that he went through, everything that he saw, surely we can. We can believe this. We can work for this. We can get up again too after getting knocked down, and keep going for the sake of everyone. Thank you so much. And we'll close with one more quote and image from John. If I can get it up here. There we go. What I try to tell young people is that if you come together with a mission and it's grounded in love and a sense of community, you can make the impossible possible. And thank you, John Lewis, for showing us that truly, indeed, you made the impossible possible. And here are the words of our Chalice Extinguishing. If you know them, please say them along with me. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Go in peace.